Hey kids, Flexing Teacher Weber here. Hope you're having a good day. We have started a new section on improper fractions and mixed numbers. Now, how we started is we did a little math talk on which one doesn't belong. And the kids can choose any answer that they want, but a lot of kids clued in on the fact that this fraction maybe was the most common one that didn't belong because it had a numerator larger than the denominator, and that's called an improper fraction. And so what we were focusing on in this section is improper fractions and mixed numbers and how they're related. So what we did after that is I spent a day with the kids having them make some different fractions with different pattern blocks and discovering that if the yellow hexagon is one whole, one of these red ones is a half, one of the blue ones is 1/3, and one of the green ones is 1/6. So we did that, and the kids played around with one of those, and they played around discovering what one whole looks like. They discovered that if you put two of the red trapezoids on the yellow one, it would completely fill it up and it would represent one whole. So you could say the fraction, if you put two of those trapezoids on there, is 2 out of 2, or one whole. And then they did the same thing with blue rhombuses. They discovered that you could put 3 of those blue rhombuses onto the yellow one, and that would represent one whole, and you would have a fraction of 3 out of 3, or one whole. And then they discovered that you could take 6 of these green triangles, and you could lay them on the yellow hexagon, and you would also have one whole. It would cover up the entire hexagon. So you would have a fraction that is 6 out of 6, or one whole. So they discovered that, and then we talked about other fractions that could represent one whole. And anything like this, they said, 10 out of 10 is one whole, or 8 out of 8 is one whole, or 100 out of 100 is one whole. So we talked about that. And then what we did next is we talked about if you took 3 of those halves, 3 trapezoids, and put them together, you would have 3 halves, or 3 over 2. You would have a fraction that is larger than one whole. And so we talked about that, how you would have 3 over 2, or you would have 1.5. And then I had the kids start to build some improper fractions and mixed numbers. So on this one right here, 3 of the blue rhombuses fit on the one whole yellow hexagon. So that would be 3 over 3, or one whole. And one of the blue rhombuses is on this one, so that's 1/3. So if you look at this picture that we have, they're divided into 3 parts, and we have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 of those thirds. So the improper fraction would be 4 over 3. Now you can also think of this as this represents one whole, and this represents 1/3. So a mixed number, which is a combination of a whole number and a fraction, is 1 and 1/3. And they are both the same. And we looked at another example. If you look at this picture here, the first part is one whole, right? It's got 6 of those green triangles. So we could say 6 over 6, or one whole. And the other part of the picture has 1/6. So if you're talking about an improper fraction, you would look at the picture. We're talking about a picture that's divided into 6 parts. We're talking about 1/6, so that's the denominator of the fraction. And then let's count how many of those 6ths we have. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the improper fraction would be 7 over 6. It's called an improper fraction because the numerator, the top number, is larger than the bottom number. It's greater than one whole. If we're talking about a mixed number, which is a combination of whole number and a fraction, well, this part of the picture is one whole, and this part is 1/6. So we say 1 and 1 over 6. And they are both representing the same amount, just in a different form. And then we talked about this one. Now, this picture here, this is all part of one picture. This part represents 2 over 2, or 1 whole, as does the second one. And the third part of it represents 1/2. So this picture is divided into halves. So that's the denominator of our fraction. And let's count how many of those halves we have. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. We have 5 halves. Or if we think of it as a mixed number with whole number parts and fraction parts, we have 1 whole, 2 wholes, and a half. So that would be 2 1/2. And then we looked at another one. So the blue rhombuses. This picture is a whole, or 3 out of 3. As is the second one. And the third picture represents 2 parts out of 3. Now, if we're talking about an improper fraction, this picture is divided into thirds. So that's our denominator. And let's count how many of those thirds. I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we'll have 8 thirds. You can also look at the numbers, right? 3 plus 3 plus 2 is 8. Now, how many wholes do we have? We have 1, 2, so 2 wholes, and then the 2/3 part. And there's our improper fraction and mixed number. Oh, look, another one. So on this picture, we have 1 whole, and it's 1 whole where we've divided into 6 parts, and all parts are represented. So we would say that is 6 out of 6. And this one, we have 5 parts represented, 5 out of 6. So the improper fraction, the denominator is 6 parts. It's divided into 6. And let's count how many of those we have. We can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 out of 6. Now, if you're just looking at the numbers here, you can see that 6 plus 5 is 11. So we have 11 over 6. Now, this also represents 1 whole. So if we're talking about a mixed number, this is 1 whole plus 5 out of 6. Now, what we also did together as a class is I had the kids not build some of these, but look at some pictures and tell me what's represented in these pictures. So, if you look at part A, I wanted to write the improper fraction and the mixed number. Well, to determine the improper fraction, count the number of parts each part of the picture is divided into. You can see it's divided into 4 equal parts. So that's going to be the denominator of our fraction. Now count how many of those fourths we have. I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the improper fraction is 7 out of 4. And if we're talking about the mixed number, well, the first picture is completely shaded in, so it represents 1 whole. And the second picture represents 3 out of 4. So that's 1 whole and 3 over 4. Improper fraction, mixed number. Letter B. Again, to determine the improper fraction, count the number of parts the picture is divided into. Each part of the picture is divided into 4 parts, or quarters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 of them. But 4 parts each, so it's divided into fourths. And how many parts are shaded? Well, 4, 8, and 11. So 11 over 4. And then as a mixed number, the first 2 parts of the picture represent 1 whole because they're completely shaded. And the last part has 3 parts out of 4 shaded. So 1 plus 1 plus 3 over 4. That's 2 wholes and 3 quarters. And they represent the same amount. Just look at a couple more here. Letter C. To determine the improper fraction, look at how each part of the picture is divided. Well, I count that each part of the picture is divided into 5 parts. So the denominator of the fraction will be 5. Count how many of those are shaded for the numerator part. Well, 5, 10, 15, plus 2 more on that one is 17 over 5. This is a fraction greater than 1 whole. That's why the numerator is larger than the denominator. Now for the mixed number part, there's 1 whole, because it's completely shaded, 1 whole, and this part is 2/5. So that's going to be 3 wholes and 2/5 for the mixed number. And it's the same pattern every time, right? There's a few more here. This one, each part of the picture is divided into 6 equal parts. This part is 6 over 6, and this part is 3 over 6. So as an improper fraction, we're divided into 6 parts, and there are a total of 9 parts shaded, right? 6 in this one, 3 in this one. So the improper fraction is 9 out of 6. And the mixed number, well, this one has 1 whole shaded. So the mixed number has the whole number part of 1 and the fraction part of 3 over 6. I'll finish these two up, but it's the same pattern every time, right? This one, similar to the last one, we have 2 parts to the picture. The first part is completely shaded, and you can see each picture is divided into 8ths. And in the first picture, there's 8 out of 8 shaded. That's 1 whole, right? The second picture, there's 6 out of 8 shaded. So we know the denominator of the improper fraction will be 8. And then just count how many parts are shaded. Well, there's a total of 14 parts shaded. You can count them individually, or you can just see 8 plus 6 is 14. So 14 out of 8. And then for the mixed number part, you can see that there is 1 part shaded, or 1 whole part of the picture shaded for 1 whole. And then the fraction part is 6/8. And we'll just look at the last one we did together. You can see on this one here, we have parts that are divided into thirds. That's 3 over 3. That's 3 over 3. That's 3 over 3. That's 3 over 3. That's 1 over 3. And 3 over 3 is 1 whole, 1 whole, 1 whole, 1 whole. So the improper fraction is divided into thirds, and we have a total of 3, 6, 9, 12, 13 of those thirds. Or, as a mixed number, we have 4 wholes plus that 1/3 part. Okay, there's a lot of examples there, so hopefully that helps you with today's assignment. On today's assignment, you've got to do this page where you're representing these pictures as mixed numbers and improper fractions. And you've got to do this page where you're representing these pictures as mixed numbers and improper fractions. I hope that helps. That's all for now. Flexing Teacher Weber, out.